Well, hello there, viewers of the YouTube kind. This is Matt, or Siphon here, and today we're going to be talking about a very special theory that involves Mob of the Dead, Shadows of Evil, and how it would answer many questions we have about the zombie storyline if it can be confirmed to be connected to everything. The clue that made me want to dive deeper into the rabbit hole is a fact about Shadows of Evil. It's set in the 1940s, and I've been discussing this with an old friend of mine known as Blackhand Smith. We've been swapping info and came up with this theory together, though I have to admit he did most of the work, and there is a companion post on the Call of Duty Zombies forum. A link to that will be in the description. Before we begin, I'd like to present this chart. It's on screen now, and you're going to have to pause. In fact, no, I'm not going to put it on screen. It's going to be in a downloadable link. It's going to help you understand some of the stuff. You can check it out as we go along through the video, and it might just help you understand some of the things that I'm saying. So if you want to have a quick look over it now, or if you want to look over it as I'm speaking, just go ahead. It's pretty complicated, but that's because the theory is pretty fucking complicated, so try and keep up. If you can't do that through vocal form, like I said, the link to the forum post is in the description. Let's get on with these tiddly bits. So we'll begin with Mob of the Dead. Mob of the Dead was its own story with absolutely nothing to do with the storyline. It was a mere story meant to show us the cycle. Until recently, I was pretty certain of that too. That was until we learned of the Shadow of Evil connection to Mob of the Dead and our main storyline. But what is that connection? Mob of the Dead takes place in a deranged world where red-eyed zombies hunt down the mobsters in order to devour them for their sins. However, before all of that is revealed, the mobsters died. This is not their world, at least it's not the world they knew. It's our personal belief that the world they entered is a pocket universe created as a purgatory by the entity that controls the zombies in Mob of the Dead. This story takes place in the 1930s. Why is that date important? Because we know for a fact that Samantha has not yet taken control of the zombies. The MPD remains on the moon, undiscovered by mankind. This is the way that the world works. Your sins work as an invitation to this purgatory. We theorize that the gangsters were part of the main storyline universe, and then that they died. When they died, they were sent to a pocket universe, this purgatory. The same thing happens to the criminals from Shadows of Evil. They wake up in a city called Morgue City. This implies that the characters are already dead. They were all sinners beyond salvation, or so we believe, though there might be a weasel among them, as in someone that doesn't necessarily belong there. Thus, they've all been brought into their own version of purgatory. But there's something different this time around. The events of Morgue City take place in the 1940s, and what other events happened in the 1940s? Simple. Samantha Maxis accessed the MPD and took control of the zombies. This is why the zombies in Shadows of Evil have yellow eyes. From this point, the entity that controlled the MPD is no longer in charge of his purgatory. The entity has been, for lack of a better word, expelled, and this afterlife is now in the hands of a young girl who has only one purpose: kill them all. From there, the link between purgatory and afterlife is severed, and the entity can no longer control this. So how do we explain the zombies appearing before Samantha took control? Well, there is yet another explanation to how that happened. Trust me, we've thought of pretty much every plot hole you could come up with. Zombies never appeared until after the teleportation device began functioning. It is possible that when Richtofen touched the MPD, it corrupted the control the entity had on the afterlife, resulting in zombies beginning to appear on Earth. Shangri-La was full of life and inhabited by native tribes. Richtofen was a leader there for some time, and he was seen as a god. However, once Richtofen returns, suddenly Group 935 start doing experiments on something new: zombies. By this point, the world is already slowly being tipped off balance. With the 115 mines finally being excavated in the Himalayas, workers begin to die from radiation. where do Gary and Brock fit into this? Well, in the 90s, a future which would later be rewritten, there were two explorers, Gary and Brock. We know this because the radios from Shangri-La are from the 90s, which they obviously carried and brought back in time with them, which is why we find them in the 60s. When they arrive in Shangri-La, it is empty, with no sign of zombies. However, once they go back in time, they end up in what we now believe is 1945, the night of the eclipse. There they encounter Yellow Eyes, which might actually be after the MPD gets contaminated, but before Samantha begins to gain control. Afterwards, our original four arrive at Shangri-La in the 60s and discover the radios. They travel backwards to the night of the eclipse and help Gary and Brock, but that only leaves them trapped in an infinite cycle, doomed to repeat the same events over and over again. Now, we believe that zombies are results from a combination of souls and 115. When a person dies, they are normally supposed to go to purgatory, or another form of afterlife. However, in this case, purgatory and the afterlife are cut off because Samantha is in control of the MPD instead of the entity. From this point onward, when a person is killed, they reanimate as zombies. Like the old saying goes, when there is no room left in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Zombies begin appearing around the world, causing outbreaks before our characters even make it to the moon. This would actually explain why 115 reanimates the dead. It doesn't. 115 is a known element in the real world and is incredibly radioactive. However, in real life, the element is far too unstable to stay sustained. It breaks down at an immense rate. In the game, however, it can be sustained, and the radiation could poison humans. Where 115 kills you, your soul, due to lack of better words, this is blackhand a little bit, but I personally think it's orgone, or life force, is trapped in the body with nowhere to go. We know for a fact that zombies actually have their old selves trapped within their bodies, their human selves. We can hear them in Die Rise begging for help and complaining about the pain that they feel. The fact that zombies started appearing much earlier actually answers another question that has long puzzled zombie theorists. If the explosion destroyed the Earth in a matter of seconds, then where were the zombie attacks in Die Rise? TV reports refer to as Outbreak. Also, how would the military have enough time to set up an evac station? Or, another question, where would they evacuate to if the world is completely destroyed? Well, if the zombies started earlier due to the afterlife being cut off, then the governments would indeed have enough time to react and set up evacuation posts. Once the 115 rockets hit the Earth, the 115 is spread across the globe, causing millions to die. And when they die, they are reanimated as zombies. So what exactly happens when a zombie dies? Well, perhaps it doesn't die, but rather returns once more. In pretty much all the maps, we constantly fight similar looking zombies. Now, one can say that this is because zombie models are not very important and are just there for gameplay purposes. However, the mystery box cycles weapons from different eras, and we once believed that was only due to gameplay purposes, but in Origins it was revealed that the box drags weapons from other time periods into the map. So an explanation as to why we always fight the same zombies over and over again could be because we are fighting the same zombies over and over again. Once they die, they can't pass on yet, so they just come back as zombies again. A small plot hole in this, admittedly, is the destruction of the heads of certain zombies and their limbs. How would they regrow them? Perhaps the zombies that return are only the zombies that we kill with torso shots, but that's just a theory for another day. So now, how do we explain Origins? Well, this part actually comes from me at last. Now, I think that Origins is the ending the Origins ending we see with Samantha, Richtofen, and all of that. I think that's all what the MPD users see when they enter it. It's how their mind perceives the power of the MPD. The MPD is so powerful that it can't actually be fully comprehended by a human mind, so their minds instead form the room, which is their way of coping with where they are. It's a safe place, and their view of the world is through toys. So what about the actual Origins universe? Well, in his opinion, the Origins universe is a temporary dimensional pocket, created just like the Alcatraz pocket and the Morp City pocket. Samantha or Maxis create this pocket because the world needs heroes in order to stop the Purgatory/Afterlife realm from being jammed. She takes the 4 characters, which she based on the original 4 since they or she's perceived to be as strong men, capable of handling any situation, and then she uses her powers to insert their new heroes back before the MPD became occupied. So how does Transit, Die Rise and Buried fit into this? Well, aside from Richtofen and Maxis, there is another entity that talks to Stuhlinger. At first, it seems like the voice is just Richtofen talking, and the distortion is just an effect. However, there's something that this voice tells Stuhlinger which does not seem to fit. It tells Stuhlinger that if he does not mend the rift, then he will tell the other 3 about the flesh that he ate. Now we know Richtofen can't talk to just anyone. He can only talk to certain people. So how could he reveal Samuel's secret? Because it wasn't Richtofen. This entity is the one that used to have control of the Purgatory and Afterlife realms. The rift is the connection between the universe and his domain, and when the rift was broken, when humans interfered with it, because of the interference, everything on Earth was caused. The time distortions are a result of the ethereal energy from the MPD being misused. The entity wanted us to mend the rift, because he wants to control once more. He knows that this is not the way it's supposed to be. Once the rift is mended, everything can go back to the way it was before. So, how do we explain the anomalies we find, such as Nova Crawlers, Screamers, Fire Zombies, all of that crazy stuff? Well, this next part might just blow your minds. The mutations are caused by what we call ethereal contamination. Ethereal energy, which we've just told you about, can change the surface of the Earth, and also changes the appearance of other creatures to resemble the natural inhabitants of the Aether. We have evidence that this is occurring. Hellhounds resemble the wall dogs from Helcatraz. Nova Crawlers resemble the demon form from Shadows of Evil. Zombies themselves resemble Purgatory/Afterlife zombies, which means we have another possibility as to what zombies really are. Either they are caused by the soul's inability to leave the body, or perhaps this ethereal contamination is creating zombies the same way it created the other creatures. Now let's consider that Purgatory is running on the same power as the Aether. We know that when the 4 characters die, they're taken to a Purgatory world. In this world, entire locations are manifested within. Helcatraz and Morgue City are both products of the Aether, however they also have some basis on reality. So if ethereal contamination can manipulate life forms on Earth, then it is also possible that ethereal contamination could cause locations to manifest within our world. So our theory provides another explanation for the time pockets. Now, let's talk about Purgatory and how the souls within it share a similar trait with people in the normal world. In Die Rise, we get a radio, all survivors being exposed by contaminants, short-term memory loss, psychosis, and paranoia. Traits also found in the Mob of the Dead characters, who not only lost their memories, but sometimes become detached from reality and start reminiscing about the past suddenly. And last but not least, paranoia, as they begin to distrust each other. This we can already see in Shadows of Evil. It has been confirmed on the Zombies website that all of the characters within Shadows of Evil have amnesia. They don't know where they are or what's going on. Perhaps the only exception to this being Nero. But where the 6 finally has meaning. With all this talk about an entity, something in the afterlife connected to the MPD, we have to ask ourselves, what is the 6? The number of the beast. However, in our game the 6 looks like a lot more cryptic. In fact, it almost looks like another symbol. You won't notice it until you actually take the time to look.